especially since this is going to be a virtual session instead of in person. So, all right. Well, why don't we go ahead? Oh, we still got more people coming in. Yay. Man, I'm going to stop, giving people all sorts of time to kind of come in. It looks as if people are, with less than a week, they're like, okay, I'm coming on. That's fabulous. All right, welcome everybody. For those of you who have forgotten who I am, I'm Lori DiLorenzo, serving as the facilitator for the Learning Collaborative, the Learning Sessions. We are super excited to have you here today to talk about Learning Session 3 and the special invitation that we have sent out to y'all. If I could have everybody go ahead, drop your name and agency in the chat room. That way we make sure we have touched all of our 8 agencies that have been invited to this special space. And if there's anybody that we're missing, we'll go ahead and follow up with them separately. So thank you for doing that. Alana, go ahead and let's bring up the slides. What we're going to do today is we're going to walk you through what this session is all about, how it's structured, what the expectations are. And we're in, there we go, Alana, you got it. Excellent. So we are going to kind of fly through the stuff. We want to make this informal. And as we have questions, by all means, stop me and we will talk through stuff. So let's go to the next slide. First and foremost, it is the congratulations, everyone. We want to thank you for your engagement in the CARE Learning Collaborative and really for your willingness to share your successes along the way. For the success story portion of the learning session, the intent is to do just that, to share what's worked. Now, it can be something that you have already completed, or it could be something that you're in progress, kind of putting into place, and you may be like, why the heck did I get invited to do this? Because we've only done X, Y, or Z. Well, the reason why you've been asked to join this is because you have done something that has stood out, and it's been identified by one or more of the coaches and faculty. And so that's the reason why you've been invited into this space. And no worries, Nikki. We know that we are hitting lunchtime for all sorts of different time zones here. Let's go to the next space. Next slide, please. So let's talk a little bit about what this structure is going to look like. We are going to have 4 15-minute blocks of time, and we've set that aside for these success stories. Now, during each block of time, we're going to have 2 sites present, one right after another. A coach is going to serve as the facilitator, and each presentation will be timed because these are considered lightning rounds, and they're called that way because they are intended to be short and quick to the point. We have 2 sessions that are going to be held on each day, so that in total, we're going to have 8 sites we'll have presented by the end of our 2-day learning session. You are going to have 5 minutes to present 1 slide. And I'm going to go over the template in just a moment. And we're going to send these slides out immediately following today's call so that you have the information. Now, be aware that each story has a different focus. And after each of the 2 sites have presented, so it'll go presenter number 1, presenter number 2, and then we're going to have a short Q&A to round out the 15-minute time frame. So that's going to be the Q&A. So that's how it's set up. 15-minute blocks, 5 minutes for each presentation, and then 5 minutes or thereabout for Q&A. Let's go to the next slide. So you can have a sense of what are the stories focused on. On day 1, we're going to look at PDSA cycles and team leadership, seamless linkage to care and senior leader engagement. And then on day 2, we're going to have a story about using data to drive improvement, use of process map or task diagrams, collaborative QI team, and expanded role of persons with lived experience. So as you could probably guess, 1 and 2 are going to go together, 3 and 4 are going to go together, and on day 1 and 2 will go together, and 3 and 4 will go together. So again, these 15-minute blocks of time, Short, sweet, lightning round template. Let's go to the next slide. So as we look at the slides, there are 3 elements that we want you to include in the single slide. You're going to have your name and agency. You're going to have the area of focus that we've identified for you, and then what your key points of success are. Let's go to the next slide. So the generic template looks like this. I have what's going to follow are the templates for each of your organizations. We've customized it so you already know who it's going to be. Now, go back for a second. But this is stop right there. So this is just what the general one looks like. So now, Alana, let's go to the next one. So this is your slide template. You're going to be talking about team leadership. So we have pre-populated for all of you your area of focus and the site name. And this is just, what it looks like. So when you get the slide deck, you'll be able to pull this out and drop in your information. Now, you can customize the service with the circle with any pictures of your team, of your site, whatever you want to drop in. It doesn't need to remain in the circle, so use whatever works for you. If you want to pop it in there, go for it. If you don't and you want to have it off to the side, that's fine as well. But we want some visual to show who it is that is leading this discussion, and just make sure that you have your agency name included in there. Now, on each template, we've also included the elements elements to consider for your area of focus. So as we look at winches and with the team leadership, what we're asking you to think about to potentially drop into your slide are items and elements that relate to team leadership, and things that we thought might be useful could be things that are explain how your team leadership is structured. I believe you use like a triumvirate approach where you've got 3 folks who really step into the role of team leadership, or 1 person who's really pulling the team together, however you want to talk that through. Talk about how the roles are parsed out. How is your team as a whole benefiting because of this structure? How have you been able to make progress within this initiative around things? And if you have time that permits, any tips that you feel are useful as it relates to team leadership. Now, the elements to consider are just that, something to consider. If you have other points that tie into this area of focus, and you think those are more important, go with it. Go with your gut. What we want you to do is consider your audience and think about what might be most helpful for them to hear. So that is the structure of what we're looking at. I'm going to go through each of the sites in a moment. So what I'd ask you to do, we're going to open it up for some discussion after I go through everything. So drop your notes in. I see, and Alana or Adam, if you could do me a favor and just, if there's questions that are coming in, just draw my attention to that. Let's go to the next one. So we know that Winches is going to be talking about team leadership. Let's pivot then and go to University of Nebraska. So University of Nebraska is being asked to focus in on and to be able to share how they have used the process map or task diagram to identify gaps in processes or areas for rework, have an opportunity to talk maybe through your identification of measures, what you've been working on from an improvement standpoint and whatnot. And again, and you guys are going to see a common element in here. This last bullet point is the same for all of them. If time permits, do you have any tips to share related to your area of focus? So in this case, University of Nebraska, do you have any tips related to how you have used the process map and task diagram that other sites could benefit from? Where should you start? What do you do if you get stuck? Kind of things like that. So that is Nebraska is going to be talking about the process map and task diagram. Let's go to the next one. PDSA cycles. Metro Health knocked it out of the park with this one. So we're asking Metro Health to show their completed PDSA cycle. Talk through the steps. What was tested? What were the data that you collected? What did you see from the results? What did you learn? How did you use this to kind of move into that next PDSA cycle? And again, any tips that you have. So as you can see, it's really taking that area of focus and thinking about what are the big takeaway messages that I want the other teams from this care collaborative to be aware of and what worked for us. Let's go to the next one. So we shift from PDSA cycles to engagement of persons with lived experience. Cooperative health, we've asked you to come to the table to talk about how you've engaged your person with lived experience in this process. How is this different from other initiatives? What makes this unique? What makes this impactful? What have been the changes that maybe you have made or issues that have been identified through the involvement of your consumer? And again, any tips that you might want to share. So that's engagement with persons with lived experience. Let's go to the next one. Coastal Bend. We have asked you to come to talk about your seamless linkage to care. So for that, thinking about what makes your process seamless? What are the elements that make it to be just like this? How is the process different from other approaches to linking clients to care? Is there any data that shows your success in linkage in this care approach? And again, any tips? So as a reminder, these are just some elements to consider. You have the authority to drop whatever you want to in the slide itself. So that is Coastal Bend and their seamless linkage to care. But wait, there's more. Let's keep going. Now we're going to AHF. I don't know if we have anybody on AHF for today's call, but we're asking them to talk about senior leader engagement. How did they get senior leaders to the table? What were they hoping to achieve by this process? What were those steps? And what, did it take to actually bring them to the table? And what was the ask of senior leaders? Oftentimes when we try to engage seniors, it becomes this generic, hey, we want you to come to the table and learn about this. But what are you asking of me as a senior leader? So if there was a specific ask that helped to engage them, what was that? And how do you plan on continuing to engage in senior leaders? Thinking about if you got them to the table now, how are we going to keep them at the table? And again, any tips that you might have. Let's keep going. We have two more to round it out. We're now going down to Florida. Florida, you just hosted the national championship. Let's see what you guys have to bring to the table here as it relates to using data to drive improvement. So thinking about what are the, who leads the data efforts? Talk to us about who's involved with this. What are the data that are being collected? How have you used it to really drive improvement? What did you find? What do you know? What did you learn from this process? How did that help you move forward? If you have data graphics and you want to use that as the visual to talk through your results, have at it. And again, any other tips related to the use of data to drive improvement? And last but not least, we're going to round it out with ValleyWise. And ValleyWise is going to talk about how they've established a collaborative QI team. So within this, who is involved in your QI team? How have you engaged the team members? What are the roles that the team members play and expectations that you've kind of set forth? And why do you consider it a success getting the folks to the table? And any tips that you have therein. Just want to give you a little foreshadowing. The topic that ValleyWise is talking about here is actually setting the stage that follows a little bit later on day 2, which is around, and we've heard from a lot of agencies that have really struggled in getting colleagues to the QI table. And that's one of the reasons why we wanted ValleyWise to talk about this. It's going to set the stage, so then we're going to go in a little while later on learning session day 2, we're going to talk more about this. We got a fun activity plan for that. So those are the major areas. So let me just hit the last slide. Yeah, go ahead to the next one. In terms of just next steps, what we're asking you to do is create this one slide, submit it no later than February the 13th. And then spend a little time with your team, decide who's going to present it. Make sure that your presentation is going to fit within those 5 minutes because that timer's going to go off and we're going to cut you right off there. So get ready to share your knowledge once you've got everything settled. And then you've got coaches and Alana or myself for questions. So I'm going to stop here. Let's open it up, and see what questions you have. Questions generally about the template, or if you want to go back to your specific slide and ask questions about it. We've tried to make this as small of a lift as possible, but we know that the participants are going to benefit greatly from this part. So we're excited. Nikki.
For the Q&A portion of each lightning round, will there be like a coach also kind of facilitating those questions and directing them to one team or the other?
You know me too well, Nikki. Let me show you. Yes. If you want to know who you're paired with, what we have here. So let's see. There will be, so the way we have this table set up is it is color coded for the day and the time. So it's all grouped together. And so in that, you can see who the coach is going to be. So in this case, Katrina is going to be the facilitator for this section. She's going to queue up the first person and then the second person, or the first site and then the second site. And then she will open up and control the flow of the discussion therein. Great question. And I thought I saw Sierra, you had your hand up as well.
Well, I was going to apologize for being late, and since everybody was quiet and we're going to be here, I think, to 1:45, I wanted to see if you could go back to my slide and tell me what I missed.
Absolutely.
Thanks so
Alana, can you
much.
go ahead? And that's so funny, Sierra, because we started with you guys.
We were in a work session and totally were going
We
over. We
used
were
it as
hitting
the
goodbyes, and I
example.
was like, we'll be there in
All
a
right, so we're
minute.
going to pull this one back up again. And so what we're looking at, and that should be slide number 7, I believe. Nope, there you go. Flip that just to it's on presenter mode. There we go. So with this, Sierra, what we're looking at is really hearing about how your team leadership is structured, and kind of thinking through who have you brought to the table. When you look at your QI team, is it one person leading this or is it 2 or 3? Different approaches with that. And if it's the multiple folks who are stepping into this leader role, how have you structured this? What are the roles? How have you parsed out the responsibilities? Do you rotate who's responsible for agendas or meeting facilitation or following up, communication, however you do it? Really thinking through what that structure looks like, why it worked for your team, and how it's benefiting your team and the involvements to be able to make progress and to meet the deadlines, the deliverables, and the bottom line is how you've been able to enhance that service delivery system. And so those are the big items in there. And then if you have any additional time or if there's any tips to share related to team leadership that the audience might be interested in, that's really what we're looking for. But as I was saying, with this, these are just elements to consider. So if there's other points that you want to make, go for it. And that's really the open invitation to everybody. You guys are the experts. We're here to learn from you. The audience is here to learn from you. So whatever you think is the most important elements that can fit on the slide and can be said within 5 minutes. So great questions. Anybody else want to go back to look at your slide? And again, we're going to send this out afterwards, but we are happy to pull it back up. How does this feel in terms of lift? Good? Bad? Okay, getting some thumbs up there. Thank you. All right. Okay. other questions, or if anybody joined a little bit later or hadn't seen anything as we were coming through, happy to talk through anything. So one slide, submit it to Glass Cubes by February the 13th. That'll be our Valentine's Day present from you. That'll give us about a week to just take a look at it and to see if there's any questions. But as you're filling this out and populating it, we are recording this session. So if you guys want to go back and listen to anything, or if you have team members who want to listen to it as well, it is available. We'll post both the recording and the slides so you have easy access to them.
Lori, quick question from the chat, just in regard to the Glass Cubes link. Can that be included in the email?
I think that's a great idea. And I know some sites still have challenges getting Glass Cubes as well. So maybe what we can do is just, Alana, in addition to providing the link, maybe we just drop in the PowerPoint version of this, and that way they can pull out. So you'll get this slide deck itself. Yeah, Adam's rejoining us. We missed him. Any other questions? This was intended to be short and simple and sweet, so we're not going to keep you all on the call. So if there's no other questions, if anybody wants to remain and you want to just have a one-off conversation or anything else, we'll hang here for a little bit. But everybody else, thank you again. Oh, actually, go to the next slide because it is my thank you slide. It is a great big thank you for, again, participating, enjoying, engaging with us in this, and allowing others to learn from your successes. So can't wait to put you in the spotlight, and we will see you in a couple of weeks for this. But in the meantime, you know where we are. So thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of the day.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Nikki, for the comment.